to Focus on Nature. I'm your host, Bob Bowles, and in this episode we're going to take you back 200 years and talk about the Scottish settlement in this area. We're here in Glen Huron on the Mad River at the old mill site. In 1832, a road was put in from Sunnydale Corners to what became Scotch Corners, today known as Duntruin. And just some of the life there from 1850 to 1900, sawmills on the river, and as the land's cleared, grist mills, and then it became a major agricultural area, and today it's a major limestone extraction area. We're going to cover the last 400 years and how things have changed greatly in the last 200 years in this episode. I am standing at the busy crossroads in the little hamlet of Duntruin, which was once called Scott's Corners. It's a busy road with Highway 91 running east and west. When this was first laid out as Nottawasaga Township, that was Side Road 2425. And in behind me is Highway 24, now called 124, running from Collingwood over to Shelburne. And that was Concession 8 of the old Nottawasaga Township. So we're going to talk about how that's evolved over the years. First of all, we're going back 400 years when this wasn't a busy corner. It would have been some First Nation trails just passing through here. There were three major tribes in this area. To the north were the Huron, the Wyandot, and then the Neutral and Pentetang around the Collingwood, around the harbor. So when Champlain first came here, the French explorer Samuel de Champlain, in 1607, he found Hochelaga, Stadacona, Montreal, and Quebec. He saw a tribe, the Wyandot people, in Tadoussac, just outside of that area, that were bringing corn over and fur trading. He followed them inland. So in 1615, he arrived in Huronia, what we now call Huronia, the Pentetang Peninsula. And that's the first written account. So he told us about the Anishinaabe tribes to the north, the Algonquin, and then later on the Ojibways that moved down into this area. And he told us about the Neutral and Pentetang and the Haudenosaunee, or the Five Nations. Today they're called Six Nations when the Tuscaroras moved up from Southern California. He told us about those, the Mohawks from Mohawk Valley in the east, right across to the Senecas in the swamplands south of here. So what happened was the Haudenosaunee came up and pretty well wiped out all the Wyandot people in 1649 in a raid, and killed a lot of the Jesuit fathers and the Recollect brothers in the area that were trying to convert the Wyandots. So at this time, there would be only a few native trails in this area. This wouldn't be as busy as it would be in another 200 years with a big push of the settlement. So when we come back, I'm going to tell you about the settlement of this land just under 200 years ago. Changed quite a bit from what it was 400 years ago. We'll end with the way it is today, which is completely different than it was 200 years ago. We are still in the hamlet of Duntruin, but have moved from the busy crossroads in the main section up Highway 91 towards the escarpment more in an area that's called Isla Park. In 1819, Upper Canada, Muddy York had become York, eventually would become Toronto. They put out an order of council that a military road be built from Barrie, present-day Barrie, up to Pentetang, called the Pentetang Military Road. So it started in 1820 and was completed by 1823. 1823, both sides of the road for its entire length was inhabited by settlement. This told them that they needed to landscape more land in the area, because we can see that the highland clearances in the late 1790s, when the English cleared the Scots off the highlands, made them move to the islands, places like the outer Hebrides and in the inner Hebrides, but especially Isla. I don't consider that an inner Hebrides. I consider that island on its own. And if you're a connoisseur of single malt Scotch like I am, you know that there are 7 distilleries on Isla, and Birch Laddie, Lefroy, Gladolboigan, some of Ardbeg, some of the best scotches come from Ireland. But it was tough to make a living there, and people had moved from the highlands down to the islands. This was even before the potato famine that hit in 1849 and decimated areas like Ireland, and another big wave. So the Scots were moving here, trying to get a new land for themselves. So that's why the main corner of Duntroon was called Scots Corner, and that's why Isla Park here is called Isla, because it's all Scottish families in this area. In 1834, they were spreading to the west from the city of Barrie, trying to develop this area. It was all densely forested, and so Sunnydale Township was cut out first. And then in 1834, a road was made due west from Sunnydale Corners to the top of the escarpment and to Grey County. That became Highway 91. And then the development by 1835. By 1833, they wanted trains to run north of Toronto. So they started building the lines in 1833. It reached Allendale and Barrie that year. But there was a decision, should it go north or should it go out? They wanted to get out to the bay. They didn't want to repeat 1812. They wanted to stay away from the Americans and not be vulnerable on, so they wanted inland roads. And so the train made its way to Collingwood in 1835. There's a common joke. The train left Toronto in 1833. It took 2 years to find its way to Collingwood. Now we've got a major harbor in Collingwood, a great shipping area, wheat from the west, and now this land is being laid out and started to be developed. And we'll talk about concession roads and side roads and how they laid this land out when we get to the top of the escarpment.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details. Looking for the best way to get the Major League Baseball games you want to watch? Rogers Super Sports Pack has you covered. With MLB Extra Innings, you'll have a premium ticket to out-of-market regular season games with all games available in HD. Don't miss the action from the games you want from both the American and National Leagues. MLB Extra Innings, part of the Super Sports Pack. For only $35.95 a month, Rogers customers get all this for one all-inclusive price. Order using your remote starting on channel 431 or visit Rogers.com today.
We are now standing on the Niagara Escarpment at the Manitoulin Banks, right where the Bruce Trail crosses the Highway 91, which is side road 425 of the old Nottawasaga Township, now Clearview. In the distance, you can see way in the back Sunnydale Corners, and then as you come up you can see the village of Stayner, and then we come up towards Duntruin just below the escarpment here. We talked about in 1832 how the road was put through, the Sunnydale Road was put through from Sunnydale Corners to Duntruin and up the escarpment. So we're just going to look at the different parts of the escarpment where we can see how the Queenston Formation, the flat land ahead of us, and then we come up the Manitoulin Bench just below us. There's a dip in the escarpment, and we can to the Manitoulin Scarp and up to the Manitoulin Bench. We'll swing the cameras around and move on up the escarpment now. So we've come up the scarp and to the bench here, and we're halfway up the Niagara Escarpment to the headwaters of the Beaver River in Osprey Township. To the west we have the headwaters of the Mad River, Pretty River, and Bateau Creek to the east. So a lot of headwaters in this area, and we'll go up to the top of the escarpment now. We turn the cameras around, and so we're still at the Manitoulin Banks, but just looking up the escarpment now. And we can see in the distance the Cabot Head Formation, which is the watershed divide between the rivers flowing to the east and the Beaver flowing to the west. We go over the Cabot Head Formation to the Annabelle Scarp in the Annabelle Formation and into Grey County at Grey Highlands, the old Osprey Township. That's the whole distance of this road, Highway 91, that runs all the way from Sunnydale Corners to the Grey County that was put through in 1834, 1835. At that time, there were none of those big pits along the shoreline. It was a through highway to get us over to this area. There was a limestone kiln at the bottom of the escarpment, just above Duntruin, that gave lime to lime the walls of the early buildings in the settlement. The lime kiln is far gone now, but now we have aggregate pit quarries. And now we'll talk about how they laid out the side roads. This is 2425 side road. We'll go to the next side road over because they're going to close this one between concession 6 and the town line. We're now at the corner of Highway 91 and Concession Road 10. So 91 we know as Side Road 24, 25 that ran through right from Sunnydale Corners. 200 years ago, there was a big demand. The Scots were coming out here, the Irish, they needed land. The Pentetang Military Road had been settled. We learned that it started in 1820, it was settled by 1823. Needed more land. So what they did was they sent land surveyors in the area. They carried a chain, and the chain was by clergyman Edmund Gumpher had in 1620 developed a surveying chain. This surveying chain was 66 feet long. It had 25 links in the one rod, and the whole chain was 100 links or 4 rods long. And that's how they laid out the concessions. The concessions would start at a major formation. In this case, the city of Barrie had already been established, then Innisfil. So they just kept moving north with their concession lines to get to the Nottawasaga Bay. So the side roads were running north-south, and the concession road for Nottawasaga would run east-west. And now we're up to concession 10. At the top of the hill, we come to the county line, which would really be concession 12. But it's between concession 10 and the county line that the problem is. Because of the extraction, they're going to close Highway 91, divert the highway traffic, all the traffic we've been seeing pounding this pavement down, and go up 25, 26 side road, which we're going to now. I just want you to get a better understanding of how they laid out the land. So if you had 80 chains, that was a mile, and 625 square links was 1 square rod. 16 rods is 1 square chain. 10 chains in an acre, and 43,560 square feet in an acre. And so 66 feet is 1 chain, and that's the road allowance. We know that a road is 66 feet wide, every road allowance. That's the old surveyor's chain. They used 1 length of chain for a road right-of-way. So for a side road, in this case, running north and south, or for a concession road running east and west, they would have it 1 chain wide. So now we're going to see, over 200 years after they laid this out, how things have changed. We're going to side road 24 or 25, 26 and see how we're going to side road 26, 27 and see how things have changed and what's going to change in nature. We're going to see aquifers, we're going to see wetlands, we're going to see rare ferns in this area.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
At the Imager Studio Tour, we have tremendous crowds. They come up for it, and once they come in, they feel comfortable. Like, I see it, like I know in advance what I'm trying to do with a shot. Lighting and shadowing will make the shot. If it's not there, it's just a one-off. The variety of the landscape. I mean, we have everything here. We have escarpment, we have the beaches, we have the Lake Simcoe, and all those. They give you such a different variety.
After involving Nuha in this program, she feels very confident. Here you have a lot of opportunity.
I learned a lot of stuff, like being kind and I'm more open-minded.
We have finally arrived at side road 2627, which is where the show is all about, and the rare ferns and the fish and the aquifers and the wetlands, and just a beautiful nature settings. There's an indigo bunting calling just in front of me here. Scarlet tanglers, you can hear the indigo bunting probably in the tape. Scarlet tanglers, Baltimore orioles, lots of birds in this area. We talked about laying out the concession and the side roads. So normally when they would start a concession 0 and 1, 2, up to concession 12. We're at concession 10 now. And usually the side roads would go from the township line, and there'd be 5 farms. So the first side road would be side road 5, 6. The next side road would be 10, 11. The next side road would be 15, 16, and then 20, 21, then 25, 26, and then 30, 31, depending how many side roads. This gets confusing in Nottawasaga, which is now Clearville, because Clearview has a different numbering. So we were at Highway 91, which is really 24, 25. If we went to the west of that, we would be 21, 22. So you can see they're moved by one lot. So now we're at side road 26, 27, which normally would have been 24, 25. So we're going up side road 26, 27, and we are going to see behind me, you can see the wetland, you can see the road climbing the escarpment. We're going to stop and see wetlands, we're going to see aquifers, we're going to see a beautiful stream, the headwaters of the Pretty River. We're going to see a spawning area and move our way up the escarpment. So we'll go to the different formations that we saw on 91. The sad part of it is, and keep in mind, this will be widened out. The leaves won't arc over. You won't have a canopy cathedral anymore. You won't have indigo bunting, scarlet tanglers calling. You'll have a wide highway with a lot of traffic going up and down here if this application goes through. So we'll move up 26, 27 side road and see some of the great nature features now. We are now on 26, 27 side road, and we're up where the Ganaraska hiking trail crosses the road. We're just above the Manitoulin Scarp and just below the Manitoulin Banks. As we move up further, we will come to the Annabelle Formation and the Watershed Divide and move over into, once we pass over the Cabot Head Formation into the Annabelle, it'll be the significant provincially wetlands and the headwaters for the Beaver River. So it's an important area here. I'm on the Ganaraska Trail. Just across the road from me is the provincial park, and behind that, the Nottawasaga Lookout Conservation Area where we saw the rare ferns. A lot of rare species in this area with the ferns and the birds and the plant species. But if 27 side road gets widened, it's not even 66 feet now. We know it's usually a chain long. It's half a chain long. They'll widen this to 2 chain, and a lot of these mature trees will be cut as well. So unfortunately, we could lose this beautiful natural area. This whole area was developed because of the many streams in the area. The Mad River had a grist mill on it. There were sawmills there as well. Duntruin had a sawmill. Nottawasaga had a saw and grist mill on the Bateau Creek. So the Mad River, the Bateau Creek, the Pretty River, all had sawmills and grist mills. This has been an important lumbering area because there were mature trees in the 1830s, 1840s. So from 1850 to 1900, a lot of logging in this area. Agriculture is an important area. Once the trees were cut in 1900 to about 1960, 1970, a lot of agriculture. Now it's aggregate. It's now, as we build bigger houses, more limestone for roads, more houses, we need more aggregate and more people. And unfortunately, it impacts on some of these natural areas. So it's sad to see the last remaining natural areas and wetlands being developed. This is one I particularly hate to see go because there's no real reason for it except the 91 highway, the major highway, had enough limestone under it to be feasible for them to actually mine an aggregate and force the traffic over here. There's no way that this little pretty side road with a cathedral canopy of trees, all the singing birds, the sporting fish, the reptiles and amphibians, and the rare fern should be obliterated just for the sake of having a highway around a quarry. This pretty little side road has a lot of environmental features, and it just, being in Simcoe County, it's just sad that it may be developed into a major throughway. So that completes our program. I hope you enjoyed this episode on Focus on Nature. Stay tuned for more episodes right here on Rogers TV.